they had the Little League Classic last night. And I didn't watch the game, but I did see this video after the fact here. And it appears, according to MLB.com, the specific date within the 2026 season is not yet determined. And part of that's because the schedule isn't out yet, somehow, and it's August 18th.
Yeah.
Now, Google AI, and I'm looking here. Doesn't say anything on this article. So now this article that Google was taking me to didn't mention this, but Google AI is saying, according to MLB.com, and also they may be giving a hint here that ESPN may be keeping at least some baseball. Because, and now mind you, this is AI, and I didn't watch the game, so I don't know if this is true or not. I tried to look last night. I couldn't find anything.
Mm-hmm.
The 2026 MLB Little League Classic will be held at historic Bowman Field in Williamsport, same stadium they played every one of these games at.
Right.
It will feature the Philadelphia Phillies and the Washington Nationals, according to MLB.com.
Really?
Its game is scheduled for a Sunday evening broadcast on ESPN, though the specific date within the 2026 season is not yet determined. The event is a collaborative effort between MLB and the MLBPA, primarily aimed at providing a unique experience for Little League baseball players and their families, according to MLB.com. So that's what they're saying, right? That's what AI is saying.
Okay.
But whether that's true or not, I didn't watch the games. I can't tell you if that's true or not. It doesn't say anything about 26, but so if this game changes and ends up being like, I don't know, I'm even thinking two shit teams, the White Sox and the Rockies. You know, it's like, hey, little bastards, I heard what you did last year. I heard you guys from Chester County doing the sword thing that Trevor Bauer does, even though you're not really, you know, you're probably more, I mean, the only reason why you're a Philly fan is because, you know, that team in Pittsburgh's total shit yet again.
Yeah.
And that's why I need that, oh no, we suck again.
That will, yeah.
But we will, I mean, right now, according to AI, and I can't find anything about it, that the Phillies and the Nationals will have a rematch of the 2023 game, allegedly. But the schedule isn't out either, so we can't look at it because,
Nope.
You know, last year, it was like, right after the All-Star break, it was like, Jesus Christ, give us a break.
Yeah.
But I think probably some of the issue may be the TV contract, the ESPN and all that, so I don't know. I'm just speculating with that, but it leads us to Rob Manfred. He was at the game, obviously, and he had his interview with the guys in the crowd, the guys from ESPN. And here's what he said about expansion and possible realignment. So let me pull this up here. And, you know, you don't really need to see the video, but
okay.
It just plays. And away we go.
What a window into the future. Expansion, realignment, expanded playoffs. I mean,
yeah.
Can you see that down the road?
I can. I think the first two topics are related in my mind. I think if we expand, it provides us with an opportunity to geographically realign. I think we could save a lot of wear and tear on our players in terms of travel. And I think our postseason format would be even more appealing for, entities like ESPN, because you'd be playing up out of the East, out of the West, and that 10 o'clock time slot where we, sometimes get Boston, Anaheim, would be two West Coast teams, and that 10 o'clock slot that's a problem for us sometimes becomes a real opportunity for our West Coast audience. So I think, I think the owners realize that there's demand for Major League Baseball in a lot of great cities, and that we have an opportunity to do something good around that expansion process.
How about?
So that's what he said. Now, before I get to that, I want to see if I can zoom in this. It's not zooming the picture. Okay. So this is from so Howie Rose, who's the Mets play-by-play guy.
Mm-hmm.
Howie Rose said, "This is what I've been telling you is inevitable for quite a while now. The American League, 1901, and the National League, 1876, will cease to exist as we know them. The last move before total destruction of the traditions that made baseball great." Okay. So here's the thing. And I'm going to quote Wikipedia on this. Now, when it comes to Wikipedia, if you're writing a scholarly paper, good luck saying that 5 times real fast. If you're writing a research paper, yeah, that's a better word. Research paper.
Okay.
Even though scholarly is a better one, is the big word. Yeah, makes me look even smarter. You don't quote Wikipedia. You can't source it. It's a no-no. But you can take the link that they use and hope to God it's on there, and then you can say, "Oh, well, I actually saw it here, but I did find it on Wikipedia, but we're going to use that link." So this is under the league organization subcategory on the Major League Baseball entry into Wikipedia. In 2000, the AL and NL were dissolved as legal entities, and MLB became a single overall league, de jure, DEJURE, similar to the National Football League, National Basketball Association, and National Hockey League, albeit with two components called leagues instead of conferences. The same rules and regulations are used in both leagues, with one former exception. The AL operated under the designated hitter rule, while the National League did not. In 2020, the NL used the designated hitter rule for the first time. You remember, because they're protecting the pitchers.
Yeah.
As part of the settlement of the 21-22 Major League Baseball lockout, this change was made permanent, thus making the rules in the two leagues identical. So if I want to be technical with what Howie Rose tweeted here, it's the last move before total destruction of the traditions that made baseball great. Let me just say this. First of all, your daughter's scary. Sorry, did I say that? Okay.
Okay.
Seriously. The American League and the National League, okay, they're leagues by name only. The same as when, we can't use the NHL and the NFL, the NHL and the NBA because, you didn't have, even though you had the WHA morphing into the NHL, even though you didn't have a WHA conference.
Right.
In the NBA, the ABA team just geographically fell into the setup of the NBA. It wasn't the ABA conference because there was only 4 teams. Even after the legal entities were dissolved in 2000, they became all part of Major League Baseball in one entity. they still kept the names and the same way that made the NFL changed the names of NFL and AFL when they merged to NFL and AFL and made them into two conferences, and then you move some teams around to balance things out. You know, Pittsburgh went from NFC to NFL to AFC, and you know, and all the different things that went on before I was born. So the one thing is, and some people were saying, "Oh, I like your idea," and some people in the one site that I was commenting on, the one post said, I don't want to see more games against the division. Well, in some of these divisions, the only way you get in is by winning the division. And you may have a situation, especially with what I'm about to propose, okay?
Okay.
You could conceivably have, with the way that these divisions will set up based on what I did, it's very conceivable all the teams in the division would make the postseason. And even if you expanded to 32, you could see all 4 teams in the division going there if they go with 8 divisions of 4 teams, just like they do in the NFL.
Right.
Now, it's very possible you could see all 5 teams in the division make it. Will it happen? I don't know. But it's also another reason why I keep teasing that I'm going to be streaming out of the park baseball, even to some of my friends, even that stream. The only reason why I'm not is because I want to alternate between a regular Phillies thing and doing the promotion and relegation stuff.
Right.
So I just think it's time that we admit the American League is no more, the National League is no more, and I'm going to go in a different direction from that little Easter egg that Rob Manfred had, where and I didn't hear what he said originally, because I was just like, ooh, I see what they're saying, and I see what Howie Rose said and everything. The one thing I will say is, if this leads to less wear and tear from traveling, and especially in some of these divisions that I've come up with, even if you're on an airplane, you're only in the air about an hour, if that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the bigger stress is getting from stadium to airport. But I'm going to present to you and to everybody out there my proposal. And this proposal, I even use PowerPoint.
Really?
So I titled this MLB realignment. Why wait? Because I think the way things set up here will really work. Now, for those that are going to say this isn't possible and all that, before we get into all the stuff that I've talked about, it's six slides, but I'm also going to talk a little bit away from everything as well, additional stuff. They are going to have all kind. You have to go through a ton of hoops just to get through this stuff. So you may have, I'm sure the owners have to approve it. The Players Association will probably have to approve it.
Yeah.
Probably even the individual networks have to approve it. But I think it's a win-win. And it's not just because I came up with it. So what I'm proposing, and let me go here and see if this is it. So why realign? More games within your own division. Because do you really like that we only play 13 games and then we have all these games versus other teams throughout baseball?
Not really.
So we can still have this NBA, NHL type scheduling. It's just, I don't know how the numbers would work, like how many games in division, all that. Sometimes I come up with these crazy ideas and I have 18 games against the division, 6 games against these teams, 3 against the other ones, and beating the hell out of the Seattle Mariners.
Yes.
So there's the potential for less travel, especially with some of these divisions, because there are some minor issues with these, with the realignment. But will also happen because we know, at least we think we know, that the A's will be moving from Sacramento to Las Vegas in 2028 or maybe even 2029.
Right.
This format, in terms of realignment, brings all kinds of flexibility into play. If, let's say, the White Sox move, if the White Sox move because they want to go to Nashville. If they go to Nashville, then there isn't that much of a difference. I mean, you just have to swap St. Louis to the Midwest, and because divisions I have in a minute. So you're going to get new rivalries, possibly, like, for example, Phillies and Yankees with what I'm about to show you. More games within your own time zone, the internal body clock. And like I said, the flexibility to change divisions, like when the A's go from Sacramento to Vegas, or, Tampa Bay moves to Montreal, or that would bump the Phillies out, little things like that. So what I did, there's the map, and this is from Wikipedia. So the only real issue I had was the South, because the Cardinals are more in the Midwest. The Reds, you could have a rivalry with the Guardians, so you're missing. So you're going to lose Cubs Cardinals, which is probably the number one thing that people say. How can you put them in different divisions? Well, it's just geographics. So, and the one thing is that I'm mentioning flexibility here. The Athletics go to Vegas, which is over where my hand is. If that it doesn't show on there, does it? Okay. So when the A's go to Vegas, they're further east than the Padres. So guess what? The Athletics go to the Southwest Division, the Southwest Division I have proposed in my 6-division format. And then the Padres will go and they will regain the Dodgers and the Giants as division rivals. Because I saw one proposal today, and Mickey said that's only one game. There's 2 left to play. I think I just heard that they forfeited the next 2 games. So some people had the Rangers and the Astros in a South Division. I just went like this and took the Cardinals and the Reds. So, but like, for example, the Northeast Division, which I'll show you in a second, you have Red Sox, Blue Jays, Yankees, Mets, and Phillies. And then I took the Tigers, Guardians, Pittsburgh, Orioles, and Nationals. I put them in a division.
Gotcha.
I mentioned the South already. I mean, that's the problem I had when I first came up with this months ago when I was doing it for Out of the Park Baseball. It's like, well, and also the Cardinals could have a rivalry, a divisional rivalry with the Royals. But what I did was I kept the Chicago teams together, the Brewers, the Twins, and the Royals in that division, the Midwest. And like, the only thing is, the Reds and the Cardinals probably have a little bit of little bit of travel, but if you're playing mostly in division, it's not that bad.
No.
But the West is the West, and Seattle's way up here all by themselves and everything. So I have Padres, Diamondbacks, Rockies, Rangers, Padres, Diamondbacks, Rockies, Rangers, Astros together in the Southwest. So, and they're grouped up together for the most part. And then you get the other California teams in Seattle in a division. So, so that's how it all breaks down here. And the names for divisions are whatever baseball wants it to be. And the one thing you will notice, there is no longer an American League or a National League. So there's no sub-leagues, as Out of the Park Baseball will call it. You just have one league. You have 6 divisions. You have 30 teams. And you just play the schedule out. Now, Howie Rose, for example, would be saying, the fuck are you thinking? But the thing is, don't you have to get with the times a little bit?
That's true.
And the thing is, the American League was still the American League after 2000. The National League was still the National League in 2000 for name only. The only problem I foresee, and I'm sure there's probably going to be a million other things, is the end of season awards. Because you have a couple of these contracts that go to 2035 or whatever it is, 2040. When these contracts were written, there's 2 MVP awards, there's 2 Cy Youngs, there's 2 batting champions, 2 All-Star teams, and we can get rid of the All-Star game if we really wanted to, right? I mean, I don't know.
Baseball's not going to give up money that easy.
But, you can, maybe, I don't know. And maybe you can do East versus West with that. But, but you don't necessarily need, you don't need to have 2 sub-leagues.
Right.
Because the American League and the National League, as I read earlier, there's no reason for it because they have no legal, what's the exact words that they use? They were dissolved as legal entities and became all part of Major League Baseball as a single entity. So let's look at it. Yeah, I know manager of the year, but I'm talking in terms of players, in terms of the Players Association, the managers and the coaches and stuff like that. They're still on the job even if there's a work stoppage. It's just that they have nobody to coach because there's no games to play. They still get paid no matter what. But that's how I have everything set up. And the problem with the West is the mountains get in the way, and that's why you have like a little bit more space between teams. And like, for example, with minor leagues and stuff like that, you have to fly from El Paso to Tacoma because, oh shit, there's a lot of mountains in the way.
Yeah.
But, some leagues you can get away with things like that. Like, for example, going to New York, you can probably just take the train up and then bus and just go to your hotel and then bus to the stadium the next day if they really wanted to, if they were in Philly for an afternoon game.
That's true.
But, but that's how I have it broken down. And okay. So this is how the playoffs will work. And it's going to be basically the same setup as we have right now, except we won't have a league championship series per se. Because league championship series is essentially a semifinal anyway. So this is all based on 12 teams. 6 division winners, because there's 6 divisions now, 6 divisions.
Right.
6 wild cards, I should say, as well. And those 6 wild cards being any of the 6 divisions. And like I said, you could have a situation where seeds 7, 9, 10, and 12 are all in the same division.
That's true.
It could happen.
Okay.
So since everybody's playing each other in this round robin format, and we don't technically have a legal American League or National League. Why have it? So the series lengths will remain the same. So everything else is remaining the same. It's just how we're seeding them 1 through 12. So division winners will be seeded 1 through 6, just like they are now, except it's 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 1, 2, 3 in each league.
Right.
And then you have 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Now I didn't post this on here because I didn't look back at the last couple of years because, one, I didn't feel like it, and I don't know if it actually is the case, but I'm sure there's going to be a situation where we get the old NBA thing where in the second round of the playoffs, a lot of times what happened was the 3 seed actually had a better overall record than the 2 seed.
Right.
So let's say it's 6 versus 7.
Okay.
And they would face in the semifinals. Let's say the team with the worst division, the division winner with the worst record has a worse record than that wild card team,
Mm-hmm.
that top wild card team, because they would end up in the same half of the draw. I am proposing we bring in the NBA rule, the old NBA rule, where if and Mickey, I'm going to get to that about waiting till the Athletics move to Vegas. If we, if you have a better record, even though, just because you won the division, I think you should be able to host because, you have a better record overall. Because the 1 through 6 is just an indication of a division record. But you're in that point of the schedule where, that's probably one of the few times that's going to happen. Maybe 5 versus 8 if that happens, but you get the idea. But, you do have, everything will be the same. Just have to come up with some better names in first round, quarterfinal, and semifinals. But, why call it a league championship series when there's no longer an American League or National League? But you do have this, and I think it will work. But, of course, Mickey is asking, I would wait till the Athletics move to Vegas. Well, here's one thing, and I mentioned in slide number 2, flexibility to change divisions.
Yeah.
Because when you look at this map, Mickey, if you move the Athletics to Vegas, which is, way down here at the southern tip of Nevada, well, it's not actually the tip, but it's like where the curve is.
Yeah, I see it.
So Padres are further west. So that would move the Athletics to the Southwest Division.
Right.
And the Padres would get their old NL West rivals, the Dodgers and the Giants again. So we know that's going to happen. Now we could see the Rays move to Montreal, which would cause all kinds of problems, and that would bump the Phillies into the Mid-Atlantic that I proposed. That would move one of the teams from the South to somewhere else. I don't want to talk about that, but and also we may have the White Sox going to Nashville because their lease is coming up in a couple of years. They want a new stadium, and I think the Chicago Fire is fighting for the land that the White Sox want. But the White Sox could also go to Arlington Heights if they really wanted to, but I think they want to stay on the south side if they stay in Chicago. But the flexibility is there that if a team moves, which you really don't want to move unless it's a method of last resort, you could easily flex these divisions around because you'll realize that, hey, even though I'm in a different division, these trips aren't that hard within the division. Now, Is it as easy as being in the Pacific Division? No, but that's because you chose to move to Vegas. But so the implications, we no longer need the American League and National League designations. The leagues have been in name only since 2000. Also, more playoff variety. We could have the Phillies beating the shit out of the Mariners in a best-of-3 series at Citizens Bank Park. We'll be taking a big dump on the big dumper. You could have the Phillies playing the A's once they get to Vegas, and Major League Baseball will still not have throwback uniforms for the series in Philadelphia for the regular season.
Right.
And now this was actually when they still had 10 teams, but this was definitely something that I thought of when less chance of the two best teams playing in an earlier round.
I'm for that.
Because the Giants and the Dodgers, the Giants won like 105, the Dodgers won 104. And that was the argument that you reseed. But the thing is, if you reseed, you're sitting there on the tarmac waiting to go to LA, or or you're waiting to go to San Francisco, or you're waiting to go to whoever was the 2 seed that year, Atlanta, let's say. You're sitting there in Chicago, and you're waiting to figure out, am I going west or am I going south?
Yeah.
Well, even though the brackets won't be that great, it won't be as great of a matchup because that top seed disappeared. But if you have a fixed bracket like Major League Baseball does, that you are going to face the Giants in the next round or the Dodgers based on what it was like in 2021.
Right.
But if you reseed like they do in the NHL, well, they don't really do it anymore, but the way that they used to do in the NHL, it's like you're sitting on the runway. It's like, oh, which way are we flying? Oh, let's watch the end of the game and we'll find out. You're already there by the time the game's over. But
I think it's better if the two best teams meet in the championship series rather than meeting in the first couple rounds. You want to make it exciting. You don't want one to knock out the other one. That's too early.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what happened with the Giants and the Dodgers? That was happening more because of the fact that you had a one-game playoff, I think, that year, or they just landed that way, or whatever happened in 2021. But that was with 10 teams, I believe. This is with 12 teams. Even if you have the current format, you're not necessarily getting the top team unless you're 1 versus 4 and you're the top wild card.
Right.
But that would avoid that as much as possible. Now, the one thing I'd like to see, and this is the same with the NFL as well, don't you want to see a blood feud for a championship? I mean, now it's not happening in the NFL, but can you imagine Eagles Cowboys or Ravens and Steelers, or the Cowboys and actually winning?
That was good.
Thank you. I could have said the Jets, but they're already beaten it.
Yeah.
But think of the ratings other than Yankees and Red Sox, because we're sick of seeing them playing every year in the playoffs, even though they haven't in a few years.
Right.
And hopefully there's bad blood leading into the series, which is going to bring even more ratings. It's not the tradition of the best of the American League and the best of the National League, but it's the best two teams in baseball.
Right.
So, you could have Phillies and Mets, you could have Phillies in Baltimore, you could have Phillies in Washington, you could have Phillies and the Braves, you could have Dodgers and Giants, Dodgers and Padres, Seattle winning a championship, because Seattle has never been to the World Series.
That's right.
They're one of, I think 4 that never made it to the World Series, I believe.
And they won over 100 games that year. They didn't make it.
116 that year,
Yeah.
I think it was. MLB teams that never appeared.
And if I remember correctly, last year when the Eagles won the Super Bowl, there was a potential that if the Ravens had won and got to the Super Bowl, it would have been us against the Ravens.
Mm-hmm.
There's no, there would be bad blood between the two because
But we only play once every 4 years.
Yeah.
Now, I am wrong with that statement I said.
You're
There
wrong?
isn't 4 teams that never play in the World Series.
How many is it? Oh, don't say it's Seattle.
Seattle is the only one. Now, Mickey's praying for expansion right now because whatever that 31st and 32nd team is,
Right.
for the next couple of years, it's like, all right, we're not the only ones here. And then you get Nashville and Portland in the World Series. It's like, motherfucker. You killed 2 birds with 1 stone there. We're back to square one here.
Yeah.
But, and also the one thing that I kind of teased before, if you have the flexibility within the divisions, we can also stop tanking in Major League Baseball.
I would love that. No
Now,
more tanking.
What's the best way to stop tanking? In my opinion, promotion and relegation.
That's true.
Now, here's the thing. Before anybody responds on the different platforms that we're on right now, I know promotion and relegation is not coming to the United States. Well, it's coming to USL Soccer, but I think what's going to happen in a couple of years when MLS goes to a fall schedule, I think they're eventually going to go with USL and work out a multi-tier thing. I think that's going to happen. But and this is something that with Out of the Park Baseball as well, I can create my baseball world, or as I like to call it, the new baseball world order. Kind of like the Hollywood Hogan.
I got you.
Scott
That
Hall.
would be a new world order, yeah.
And meanwhile, in a couple of hours, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook just muted me from going.
Oh man.
But and you get situations, and you can get situations here where, let's pretend it does happen somehow. It's not happening, but let's pretend. When you watch an English Premier League match, when the last day of the season, I think it's mid-May, it may be beginning of June, whenever it is. And I kind of got away from the English Premier League because everything is on the Peacock, not Old Cock, that horse that won back in May in the UK or Ireland, wherever the race was. Let's say you're like this close from surviving and you get to play another year in the English Premier League, and that last second goal knocks you into the relegation zone and you got to drop a level for the next season. The look on the fans' faces, you would have thought that the whole, you would have thought their entire family died. Imagine, well, now granted, you won't really see it in Chicago because the White Sox, other than the Savannah Bananas game, I don't think they've been that full with a Rate Field, Comiskey Park.
Yeah.
Because it used to be Comiskey.
Right. It's been a while.
U.S. Cellular. I don't think that's been filled like that since they won the World Series in 2005 or whatever it was. Which game 1 the Pope did attend. They even have a marker of that seat where here sat Pope Leo, and he did not molest any boys.
Thank you.
But yeah, I'm already going to hell with the Michael J. Fox joke that I had last week about him shaking his head over the other Michael J. Fox. Some people say you're going to burn in hell for hell. I'm just throwing another log on the fire, man. You don't know me, do you? But just think, you're this close to getting in, and you give up a run in the 12th inning, and that other team may even be a team that's already being relegated. You get knocked down, they get brought up. Another team gets brought up,
Yeah.
So, and the thing is, if you had promotion relegation, you can set things up where, okay, well, we need to put the Pacific Coast League champion over here. So let's say it was Vegas. Okay, now we got two teams in Vegas playing. Or let's use Tacoma.
Right.
Okay, well, we got to adjust here. So Tacoma, so we move this team here, and little things you can do. Until you have 6 divisions of 5. Now, granted, you get a situation where you have this one stadium that's only seating about 15,000 fans. But oh, by the way, if your team's good enough, you get to build a bigger stadium.
Yeah.
But then again, you're talking pipe dreams and stuff like that. But we know that ain't going to happen. But imagine having to deal with getting bumped down to the first league, the second level, which I called League One.
Right.
And you never get to smell Major League Baseball ever again.
We can only dream.
But if we do use this format here, and we could get the top 2 teams, even if it's 2 teams from the former National League or American League. And if we did that, we don't need to make it the Eastern Conference or the Western Conference, which Rob Manfred kind of put an Easter egg about that. But you probably could do something where, okay, well, X amount of games within your division, and then maybe 3 games each or something. I don't know. I haven't worked out the numbers, nor do I feel like it. But it's worth a shot.
It really is.
And now, like Mickey said, I would wait until the Athletics move to Vegas. Okay, well, yeah, but we had the flexibility built into this. But it's probably not going to happen until you have 32 teams. And it'll probably be, those 31st and 32nd teams will hit the field after Rob Manfred retired. So probably 32, 33, 34, something like that. But he's laying the groundwork now because he wants to expand. Whoever takes over as commissioner, he may just say, oh, we're not expanding. We got 2 new fires here. We have a fire in Chicago. Well, I shouldn't talk about fires in Chicago because,
No.
We've got a fire in Chicago. We got a fire in Tampa Bay. Oh, we got one in Denver now because, Denver can't win 40 games in a season or, we got all these stadiums, I don't know what to do here. But it is something worth considering. Now, whether it's 32 teams or you wanted to do it right away, it's there for the taking. But, and the thing is, I could have you just go and scream an A on me and just totally take the opposite point of view just because you can. But that's the one good thing about this show and any show that I would do where I have more than one person. I would say, hey, don't take the opposite side just for taking the opposite side.
Right.
If If you want to take the opposite side, do it because you think this is totally shit. But, if it's somewhat of a good idea, yeah, then that's fine too. But I like the idea of this.
It's a good idea.
But I think this could break the mold when it comes to NFL, NBA, and hockey. Well, hockey, back in the 70s, when they had 20 teams, and if you were one of the 4 or 5 teams that didn't make the playoffs, well, you deserve not to make the playoffs. Or if it was 12, it might have been 12.
Because it was so easy to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
If you didn't, something was seriously wrong with your team.
Yeah. So let's say it was 16 out of 21.
Right.
If you remember, the Flyers played the Islanders in the Stanley Cup final that one year when Leon Stickle fucked the Flyers.
I remember them playing out. Yeah.
And it was the last matchup of 2 division teams, I think, until, well, technically they weren't division foes because of COVID, but
Right.
you had Montreal playing Tampa Bay. And when they went back to the regular division setup, they were division rivals playing for a championship. But you do have that. Is it going to happen? Probably not. Is promotion relegation? No. That's definite no. But it's interesting to bring up these ideas because maybe Rob Manfred hears this, goes to the Bleacher Brothers YouTube, and he says, well, guess what? That ain't a bad idea. The only problem is how they get all these guys in the minor league system to play Major League, playing this whole ladder, but I digress.
No, but you're okay. But it's nothing that you say that's important too. Every sport, when it first starts, it has to progress. Mm-hmm. It's going to it's natural progression because you're trying to make it better. This would make Major League Baseball better. It has to progress.
Yeah.
You want to think about the players and do something that shows that you're thinking about the players. You're still going to make money because you're Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
But do something that makes you think that you think about the players and you're thinking about the fans.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Now,
so it makes sense.
The only bad thing with it, like for example, the Phillies, with the way that this division is set up right now, based on what I created, is that you get a lot of annoying people from the Mets, and you get a lot of annoying people from the Yankees, and oh, by the way, a lot of annoying people from Boston too.
So what else is new? What else is new?
But but there is one person from Boston that's not annoying.
Oh yeah, only one.
Yeah. You don't even know.
Isn't she from Boston?
Who? The Parks Track announcer.
She's from, yeah. Oh, okay. I'll think about the other one. Okay. Well, okay.
Even though she does say she's an occasional nuisance, but hey, she says it on her bio, so it's not. I'm quoting the bio. I'm not quoting.
I got you.
But anyway, so that's the proposal. Is it happening? Not until the Athletics get to Vegas, like Mickey suggests. And if it does happen with realignment, it probably won't be until we have 32 teams, but you can do it with 30.
Yep.
And, it's not going to happen. And we know promotion relegation is going to happen, but, if you do that, then guess what? You have flexibility. You have the flexibility to do it. It's just a matter of the major league franchises owning the rights to players at each level of their minor league system. So that's the issue that will keep it from happening more than anything else. So